What happens when one of Britain's most beloved television presenters comes face to face with a royal guest who refuses to play by the rules? It only took 43 seconds of live television for Prince Harry to completely destroy his reputation and get himself permanently banned from one of the country's most popular morning shows. This is the story of how Lorraine Kelly, the warm-hearted Scottish presenter who has charmed audiences for decades, stood her ground against entitled behavior that shocked viewers across the nation. What started as a routine celebrity interview quickly spiraled into television chaos when Harry decided that the rules simply did not apply to him. The morning began like any other at the ITV studios in London. Lorraine Kelly sat behind her familiar desk, her signature smile lighting up the screen as she prepared for what should have been a straightforward interview. The guest list included Prince Harry, who was supposedly there to discuss his latest charitable endeavors. The producers had briefed Lorraine about the talking points, and everything seemed perfectly normal. "Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the show," Lorraine said, her Scottish accent adding its usual warmth to the greeting. "We're absolutely delighted to have Prince Harry joining us this morning. Harry, thank you so much for being here with us today." Prince Harry shifted in his chair, already looking uncomfortable. His body language spoke volumes before he even opened his mouth. Instead of the polite acknowledgement viewers expected, Harry's response caught everyone off guard. "Well, I suppose I should thank you for squeezing me into your busy schedule," Harry said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Though I have to say, this studio is rather smaller than what I'm used to." Lorraine's eyebrows lifted slightly, but her professional composure remained intact. She had dealt with difficult guests before, and she knew how to handle awkward moments with grace. "Oh well. We like to keep things cozy here," Lorraine replied with a gentle laugh. "It helps create that intimate atmosphere our viewers love. Now, I understand you're here to talk about your work with young people and mental health awareness. That's something very close to your heart, isn't it?" Harry leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms in a defensive posture that immediately signaled trouble ahead. "Look, Lorraine, let's get one thing straight from the start. I agreed to this interview as a favor, really. Your team was quite persistent, almost desperate, I'd say. So I thought I'd help boost your ratings for once." The words hit the studio like a thunderbolt. Lorraine's smile faltered for just a moment, but years of live television experience kicked in. She maintained her professionalism, even as Harry's arrogance began to show its true colors. "Well, that's very kind of you to say," Lorraine responded diplomatically. "Our viewers are always excited to hear from members of the royal family. They have such respect for the work you do." "Respect?" Harry scoffed audibly. "Do they really? Because from where I sit, it looks like your audience consists mainly of housewives with nothing better to do than watch morning television. Not exactly the demographic I usually concern myself with." The camera captured Lorraine's face perfectly as these words registered. Her expression showed a mixture of disbelief and controlled anger. This was her audience. Harry was insulting the loyal viewers who had supported her show for years. "I think you'd be surprised by the diversity of our audience, Harry. We have people from all walks of life who tune in every morning. They're hardworking people who deserve respect, not judgment." Harry waved his hand dismissively, as if brushing away Lorraine's words like annoying flies. "Oh, please, spare me the lecture about hardworking people. You have no idea what real work looks like. Sitting behind a desk reading from a teleprompter isn't exactly groundbreaking stuff, is it?" The studio fell into stunned silence. Even the camera operators seemed frozen in place, unsure whether they should continue filming this train wreck in progress. Lorraine Kelly, the woman who had interviewed prime ministers, celebrities, and royalty with equal grace, found herself facing the most disrespectful guest of her entire career. "Excuse me?" Lorraine's voice carried a slight edge now, though she still maintained her composure. "I've been working in television for over 30 years. I've covered major news events, interviewed world leaders, and built a career through dedication and hard work. I won't sit here and have my profession belittled by someone who was born into privilege." Harry's face flushed red with anger at this pushback. Clearly, he was not used to being challenged, especially not by someone he viewed as beneath his social status. Born into privilege? That's rich coming from someone who makes a living gossiping about celebrities and peddling lifestyle advice to bored housewives. "At least my privilege comes with responsibility and service to the nation." "Service to the nation?" Lorraine's Scottish accent became more pronounced as her emotions heightened. "And what service would that be exactly? Because from what I can see, you've spent more time complaining about your circumstances than actually helping anyone." The tension in the studio was now palpable. Crew members exchanged worried glances as they realized this interview was spiraling completely out of control. Harry's mask of royal politeness had completely slipped away, revealing something much uglier underneath. "How dare you question my service?" Harry shouted, his voice echoing through the studio. "I've served in the military. I've worked with charities. I've dedicated my life to causes that matter. What have you done except smile pretty for the cameras and ask softball questions?" Lorraine leaned forward in her chair, her maternal instincts kicking in as she tried to de-escalate the situation. "Harry, I think we're getting off track here. Why don't we take a breath and talk about the positive work you're doing? That's what our viewers really want to hear about." But Harry was beyond reason now. The entitled behavior that had been simmering beneath the surface exploded into full view. "Take a breath?" Harry's voice cracked with indignation. "You're telling me to take a breath? I don't think you understand who you're dealing with here, Lorraine. I'm not some C-list celebrity desperate for publicity on your little morning show." Lorraine's patience was wearing thin, but she continued to handle the situation with the grace that had made her a household name across Britain. "Harry, I'm simply trying to have a civilized conversation here. Our viewers tuned in to learn about your charitable work, not to witness this kind of behavior." "Civilized?" Harry laughed bitterly. "There's nothing civilized about this setup. You've got me sitting in this cheap chair under these blazing hot lights, probably hoping I'll say something controversial so you can boost your pathetic ratings." The camera caught every micro-expression on Lorraine's face as she processed these accusations. Her professionalism was being tested to its absolute limits, but she refused to sink to Harry's level. "The only person being controversial here is you, Harry. I've asked you perfectly reasonable questions about your charity work, and you've responded with nothing but insults and arrogance." Harry stood up abruptly from his chair, towering over the desk as his anger reached a boiling point. The sudden movement caught the camera operators off guard, and they scrambled to adjust their shots. "Arrogance? You want to talk about arrogance? How about the arrogance of a talk show host thinking she can lecture a member of the royal family? How about the arrogance of assuming your little show matters in the grand scheme of things?" Lorraine remained seated, her calm demeanor contrasting sharply with Harry's explosive behavior. She had dealt with diva guests before, but nothing quite like this public meltdown. "Sit down, Harry. You're making a spectacle of yourself on live television. Think about how this looks to the millions of people watching right now." "I don't care how it looks," Harry shouted, his face now completely red with rage. "These people mean nothing to me. Your show means nothing to me. You mean nothing to me. I only came here because my publicist insisted it would be good for my image." The studio audience, which had been silent up until this point, began to murmur among themselves. Some viewers looked shocked, others appeared embarrassed for Harry, and a few seemed genuinely angry at his disrespectful treatment of their beloved host. "Harry, please," Lorraine said, her voice taking on an almost motherly tone. "You're clearly upset about something, but taking it out on me and my team isn't going to solve anything. Why don't we end the interview here and you can take some time to collect yourself?" But Harry was too far gone to accept this graceful exit strategy. His sense of entitlement had completely taken over, and he seemed determined to burn every bridge in the studio. "In the interview? Oh no, Lorraine, we're just getting started. Since I'm here, let me tell you exactly what I think about your pathetic little show and your simpering audience of nobodies." Lorraine's eyes flashed with genuine anger for the first time in the interview. Insulting her was one thing, but attacking her viewers crossed a line that even she could not ignore. "That's enough," Lorraine said firmly, her Scottish accent now thick with emotion. "You can insult me all you want, but I will not sit here and let you disrespect the people who watch this show. They are good, decent people who deserve better than this tantrum." "Decent people?" Harry sneered. "They're voyeurs who get their entertainment from watching other people's lives. They sit at home judging celebrities while their own lives fall apart around them. It's pathetic, really." The production team was now in full panic mode. Through her earpiece, Lorraine could hear frantic discussions about cutting to commercial or ending the segment entirely. But she knew that walking away now would send the wrong message to her loyal viewers. "You know what's really pathetic, Harry? A grown man having a tantrum on live television because he can't handle being asked simple questions. You came here supposedly to talk about helping young people, but what kind of example are you setting right now?" Harry's face contorted with fury at being called out so directly. He clearly expected Lorraine to cower in the face of his royal status, but instead, she was standing up to him with the strength that had made her a broadcasting legend. "Example? You want to talk about examples? How about the example of a nobody television presenter thinking she can psychoanalyze a member of the royal family? How about the example of someone who peaked decades ago trying to stay relevant by ambushing her guests?" "Ambushing?" Lorraine's voice rose slightly. "Harry, every single question I've asked you was cleared by your people in advance. There have been no surprises here except for your absolutely appalling behavior. The truth of this statement seemed to hit Harry like a physical blow. He had no response to this fact, so instead he doubled down on his attacks. My behavior? My behavior? You dragged me onto this third-rate show, stuck me under these ridiculous lights, surrounded me with your amateur crew, and then act surprised when I don't play along with your little charade? Lorraine stood up from behind her desk now, matching Harry's aggressive posture but maintaining her dignity throughout the confrontation. This third-rate show has been on the air for decades. These amateur crew members are consummate professionals who work incredibly hard every single day. And this charade, as you call it, is watched by millions of people who trust me to treat guests with respect, something you clearly know nothing about. Harry's eyes blazed with contempt as he stepped closer to Lorraine's desk, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper that the microphones barely caught. Trust? You want to talk about trust? The only reason anyone watches this garbage is because they have nothing better to do with their miserable lives. You're a parasite feeding off other people's stories, and your audience consists of the most pathetic dregs of society. That was the final straw. Lorraine Kelly, the woman who had maintained her composure through decades of live television, who had interviewed everyone from politicians to pop stars with equal grace, finally reached her breaking point. Right, that's it, Lorraine said, her voice cutting through the studio like a blade. I have sat here and listened to you insult me, my crew, and my viewers for the last time. Security, please escort Prince Harry from the building immediately. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Never before in the history of British television had a talk show host kicked a member of the royal family off their program. The studio fell into complete silence as the magnitude of what had just happened sank in. Harry's face went through a series of expressions, from shock to disbelief to pure rage. He clearly had not expected Lorraine to actually follow through on such a drastic action. You cannot be serious, Harry stammered, his earlier confidence now completely shattered. You're throwing me off your show? Do you have any idea what this means? Do you know who I am? I know exactly who you are, Lorraine replied calmly, her professional demeanor returning now that she had made her decision. You're someone who came onto my show as a guest and proceeded to insult everyone here. Your title doesn't give you the right to treat people like dirt. 2 security guards appeared at the edge of the set, their presence making the situation suddenly very real. Harry looked around desperately, as if expecting someone to come to his rescue, but the crew members avoided his gaze. This is absolutely ridiculous, Harry continued, his voice now taking on a pleading quality. You cannot seriously be doing this over a simple disagreement. I demand to speak to your producer immediately. Lorraine shook her head firmly, her resolve unwavering despite the unprecedented nature of the situation. There's nothing to discuss, Harry. You've shown complete disrespect for me, my team, and most importantly, the viewers who welcomed you into their homes this morning. I won't tolerate that kind of behavior from anyone, regardless of their background. The security guards moved closer, and Harry suddenly seemed to realize that this was actually happening. His royal status, which had always been his shield against consequences, was powerless here. You'll regret this, Lorraine, Harry said, his voice shaking with a mixture of anger and humiliation. Do you think you can just humiliate a member of the royal family on live television and walk away without consequences? The only person who humiliated you today was yourself, Lorraine responded with devastating simplicity. Every word that came out of your mouth was broadcast live to millions of people. They saw exactly who you really are underneath all that privilege. Harry looked around the studio one final time, his eyes wild with desperation. The cameras were still rolling, capturing every moment of his downfall for posterity. This is not over, he declared, pointing an accusatory finger at Lorraine. You have no idea the kind of power I wield. You think your little show protects you, but you're nothing more than a Scottish nobody who got lucky. Even faced with these final insults, Lorraine maintained her dignity. She had weathered the storm and emerged victorious, proving that integrity and professionalism could triumph over entitled behavior. Gentlemen, please escort our former guest from the premises, Lorraine said to the security guards, her voice steady and authoritative. As the guards approached, Harry made one last desperate attempt to salvage the situation. Wait, he said, holding up his hands. Perhaps we can work something out here. I may have gotten a bit heated, but surely we can find a way to resolve this like adults. But it was too late for apologies or negotiations. Lorraine had made her decision, and she was sticking to it with the same determination that had made her a broadcasting icon. The time for adult behavior was when you first sat down in that chair, Lorraine said coldly. You chose to act like a spoiled child instead, and now you have to face the consequences. The security guards gently but firmly took Harry by the arms, beginning to escort him toward the studio exit. His face was a mask of humiliation and rage, as the reality of his situation finally sank in completely. "You cannot do this to me!" Harry shouted as he was led away, his voice echoing through the studio. "I am Prince Harry! You cannot treat me like some common criminal! I'm treating you exactly how your behavior deserved to be treated," Lorraine called after him, her voice carrying clearly across the set. "With the same respect you showed everyone else today, which is to say, none at all." As Harry disappeared from view, still protesting loudly, Lorraine turned back to face the cameras. Her composure was remarkable considering what had just transpired. "Well, ladies and gentlemen," she said, smoothing down her jacket and retaking her seat behind the desk, "I apologize to all our viewers for that unfortunate display. This is not the kind of behavior we expect from our guests, regardless of who they might be." The studio audience, which had been holding its breath throughout the entire confrontation, finally began to react. Applause started slowly from one corner and quickly spread throughout the room as viewers showed their support for their beloved host. "Thank you," Lorraine said, her voice slightly emotional as she acknowledged the applause. "That means more to me than you know." We'll be right back after this short break with a much more pleasant conversation, I promise you.